So the Michigan sign stealing allegations won't go away. We're on to day 25 since it originally came out that the Big Ten and the NCAA had alerted the member institutions that, hey, there is a real likely chance that Michigan has stolen your signs and that you need to do something about it. And that Michigan State had considered not playing because of the sanctity, integrity, character of the game, yada, yada, yada. We've come a long way since then. There are constantly allegations thrown out from Michigan defenders, Michigan detractors. And so I thought it was a good idea to sit down and kind of put a lot of the things being thrown around into kind of three funnels, right? There are things that we think, things that we know, and things that can be proven or disproven. And your argument can be, well, everything can be proven or disproven. To a point, yes. But I think we're going to just run down today the statements, and we're going to decide whether that's something we know, whether that's something we think, or whether that's something that can be proven. And some of these, like, obviously, like, so we start at the NCAA alerted the Big Ten that there was credible evidence that Michigan was involved in a sign stealing operation. We know that. Like, we know that. Can it be proven? Yes. But I think the can it be proven falls into a like stuff that we don't know already. So we know that the NCAA told the Big Ten, hey, this is going on. The Big Ten then alerted the member institutions. The Big Ten has now subsequently met with Michigan president Santa Ono and has since given a notice basically of like, hey, we've got some ideas on a punishment that's coming. We know that. We know that the Big Ten met with Michigan's president and essentially triggered you got 48 hours to respond to, we're going to drop the hammer on you. We know that Connor Stalions is the alleged sign stealer, and we know, and I think this can be proven, that he has bought tickets to more than 30 Big Ten games at 11 schools over the course of the past 3 seasons. I feel like even the biggest Michigan fan and defender can admit that those 3 things are things that we know. We know that the NCAA and the Big Ten, the NCAA told the Big Ten told its members that there is credible evidence that Michigan was involved in a sign-stealing operation. We know that Connor Stalions is the alleged person who led that sign-stealing operation. We know that he bought 30 tickets to 11 Big Ten stadiums over the course of the last 3 years. Those are all, at this point, verifiable facts. Pretty much everything from there splits off into like how you view this or that. Jumping to the like, hey, here is what we can prove, and this probably falls into the what we know category. We know that using any electronic device to steal signs is illegal, whether that is audio, video, whatever the case may be. It is illegal to use anything other than your 2 eyeballs, a pencil, and a piece of paper. Anything else is not allowed. That is a verifiable fact from the NCAA bylaws and rulebook. Any argument against that is in bad faith. So keep that in mind if you see someone make any argument other than that is not allowed. Can't do it. No exceptions, no nothing. That is the truth. Also, we know that in-person scouting is illegal. You cannot send people in advance to another team's stadium game, etc., to watch them. Whether you think that is fair, true, or not is irrelevant. The rules are you can't do it. And I think it's a fair rule because Michigan could afford to send 1,000 people to games every weekend, probably. Could Troy? No. So to keep some level of parity and equity in the sport, that rule exists. Those two things are abundantly true, verifiable facts. We know, and you can prove, that using any electronic device to steal signs is illegal, and in-person scouting is not permissible. Again, anybody trying to tell you that those two things are not true is arguing in bad faith and is lying, or they don't have an understanding of the rules, which means they are not credible. Then we start to fall into the, okay, what do we think? What do we think? For instance, I don't know that we can prove this or not. I'm sure we could. Whether it will be proven, I think, is another. Connor Stallions was on the sideline in Central Michigan gear when the Chippewas played at Michigan State to start the season. I think we think that. It certainly appears as if that was Connor Stallions on the sideline at Michigan State wearing Central Michigan gear. Can it be proven? I think so, but it's going to be difficult to prove. Is it true beyond a reasonable doubt? I think so, but proof will be hard to come by, I think. Now, I can't sit here and pretend like something won't pop up that, like, hey, there's, like before the game, Central Michigan made everybody use their fingerprints before they got a sideline pass or something. Like, could that have happened? I guess, but it's not likely to have happened. So it's going to be difficult to prove that. But right now, in my mind, are you asking me, was that Connor Stallions? Yeah, it was. Because I don't know what the argument against it being Connor Stallions, like, how are you going to say it wasn't him? We think that Michigan signs were decoded and given to other schools too. There are files circulating today that purport to show that other schools had deciphered Michigan's signboards and things like that and knew what those play calls meant. I think that will be hard to prove, barring a email paper trail or whatever that somebody uncovers. I think that will be difficult to find. So we think that that's true, but we don't know. We think that Big Ten coaches and ADs are angry about the situation and the lack of punishment so far from the Big Ten. I think you could prove that. I would find it difficult to believe that somebody didn't record audio of that conversation, that in a conference call of the 13 non-Jim Harbaugh coaches, that somebody didn't say, you know what, I'm gonna pop the phone up here just to make sure that I got this in case somebody tries to say they didn't say this or somebody tries to say they did say that audio probably exists somewhere. It can be proven. Whether it's likely to be proven or not, I don't think is realistic. And then finally, I think many people think it is impossible for Jim Harbaugh to have not known about this. Impossible is a big word. I find it highly unlikely that Jim Harbaugh didn't know, but do I find it impossible for him to not know? No. Highly, highly, highly unlikely that he didn't know, but impossible is probably a jump too far for me. Because I'm certain there are things that go on in that program that he doesn't know about, legitimately. Like if you were to say to Jim Harbaugh, like, which one of your starting linebackers doesn't like to have his ankle taped? He probably doesn't know. So, and I'm not equating those two things. I'm not equating that your program is accused of this elaborate sign stealing operation and whether your like outside linebacker gets his ankles taped or not. I'm not equating those two things, but it is conceivable that there are things that happen inside the program that he has no idea about. I just don't think that this is one of those. So we put that as we think. Now, supposedly there's a report out today that the NCAA has no evidence that Jim Harbaugh knew about this. But that doesn't matter, because if the allegations are true, you cannot use the defense of Jim Harbaugh didn't know, because the NCAA bylaws say that it's the responsibility of the head coach to ensure that everybody inside the program, whether it's assistant coaches, players, trainers, analysts, whatever the case may be, are operating within the construct of the rules. So if they broke the rules, the acts by the bylaws falls also on Jim Harbaugh. So that defense does not work. I think you can prove that Michigan had a sign-stealing operation, an elaborate sign-stealing operation. The video that Barstool's Will Compton tweeted out, where Nebraska calls a play, I think it's 2 years ago now. Nebraska calls a play. Immediately, Michigan defenders start waving their hand in front of their face like the old John Cena, "You can't see me." And then the next play is a screen. Well, waving your hand in front of your face would conceivably be an alert to everybody else on the field that it is a screen is coming. The two defensive ends did not rush on the play. The ball was snapped, and Aiden Hutchinson and the other defensive end each completely vacate where they were and start directly to move to the flats. The two defensive tackles stand kind of straight up, play patty cake with their offensive linemen. No linebackers blitz, no defender, no back four corners or safeties really do anything other than wait for the screen to be thrown. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a defensive coordinator say, you know what, the key to winning defensively is to only kind of half-ass rush two guys, and then we'll drop our DNs and then not bring any backers either. It's just, that's because it doesn't happen. And you've seen the videos of when CJ Stroud looked to the sideline to get further instructions from Ohio State's crew, and everybody on the Michigan sideline signals something, and Michigan snuffs out the play perfectly in a high leverage situation. Conceivably, there's only one answer to why that was happening. I don't know that you can make up a reasonable answer of another excuse, description, whatever, other than when you've been tasked with, hey, you were undergoing this elaborate cheating scandal. I don't know what other thing you can say. No. What actually was happening was, like, I don't know what you're pulling out of that bag that makes any sense. So I think you can prove, or you can at least deduce, it is true that the NCAA was alerted by some sort of legal organization that Michigan was utilizing an elaborate sign stealing system. Then there is video evidence pretty much showing, one, Connor Stalions always being next to the offensive or defensive coordinator, depending on which side of the ball Michigan was on, talking to them. There is video of him saying to a coordinator, "Run right." Like the defensive coordinator says, "What is it?" "Run right." It doesn't take a science rocket to put two and two together there to say, okay, it is really clear that is what happened. But, and I don't think this is unfair. I think it's true. Michigan fans have built their fandom and built their football program up to a moral superiority of, we don't do the things that everybody else does, and that's why we are great, is because we don't cheat, we don't bring in hoodlums, we don't do all the things that, everybody else is accused of. We don't do those things. Well, and then here you are. So that's a difficult thing to confront. It's sort of like when you spend your entire childhood thinking like, your parents are the greatest people on the planet, and then you grow up and you're like, oh, they kind of suck like everybody else. Like, it's just, you have to confront that. And some people can confront that and go, oh, all right, well, that's a problem. And some people can't. And that's okay. But I think we can prove through kind of video evidence and paper trails, etc., at minimum, that Connor Stalions was working for the Michigan football program with the express intent to steal the opponent's signs. Whether you can prove or not that that was his stated mission from the Michigan football program is a different topic, is a different discussion. But from everything that has been reported and figured out, I think you can prove that Connor Stalions was stealing signs for Michigan. I think you can prove that Connor Stalions or people he paid were attending games at other schools with the intent to steal their signs. It doesn't take a whole lot to put 2 and 2 together of if Connor Stalions paid somebody via Venmo with the message like GA the day that Georgia played its college football playoff semifinal, that maybe potentially, and then that person being like, yeah, they paid me to steal signs. It doesn't really take a science rocket to figure that out of what was going on there. I also think you can prove that there are allegations, and there, believe me, there are so many different things that have come out in the course of the last 25 days that are like, well, wait, what? I think you can prove whether or not Michigan passed along signs they stole from another team that is believed to be South Carolina, that they stole the signs for Tennessee and Clemson while scouting them because they were preparing for the college football playoff, that they passed those signs on to South Carolina. You would have had to have done that electronically, right? Like, I guess I just don't know that I buy that Connor Stalions stole Tennessee and Clemson signs, printed off those signs, then put them in like a manila envelope and sent them to Columbia, South Carolina for the Gamecocks coaching staff to use. I think it's much more likely that he emails a PDF, right? So you can Freedom of Information Act request pretty much everybody in the South Carolina football stratosphere's email, or you get Connor Stalions or any other Michigan staffer, you Freedom of Information Act request their emails and see what turns up. I think that's provable. Whether it will be proven or not, I doubt it. But I just doubt that there's not an electronic paper trail of like, the idea that like Connor Stalions went down to Kinko's to get, these things printed off so he could put it in the mail and mail it to South Carolina. I just don't find that super likely. But I think that allegation specifically can be proven. Whether it will be proven or not, I don't know. But there are so many different things and layers to this where when it first started, I don't know that you ever could have imagined that South Carolina and Central Michigan will be pulled into this as well. And now that there are reports that Michigan had their signs stolen, I think there's a difference between like, hey, last year when they did this, this is what it meant, compared to we went to Purdue 6 times, and now we know every time that they do XYZ that they're going to run ABC. There's a difference to that. But it's, I think, pretty clear that the Big Ten coaches and ADs are angry about the situation. And I mentioned on Sunday, I think the Big Ten is in a hell of a spot here. And I don't know what they're going to do. But I remain steadfast in the idea that I don't think it's going to be an immediate, like, I think 4 different dudes have tweeted out the last, like, by the way, like, nothing has highlighted the fact that there's so many people who don't know a damn thing about what they're talking about when it comes to college football, like reporting. Like, I've seen so many, Jim Harbaugh is going to be suspended on Monday. Yeah, well, it's Tuesday, and that hasn't happened yet. So, the Big Ten. No, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, and that's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but you could just say, I don't have any information. I don't know what's going to happen, because nobody knows what's going to happen. The idea that Ryan Day was the one who turned in Michigan. And then when he was asked about it over the weekend, he didn't say no, he wasn't the one. So therefore he's guilty because he said no comment instead of he didn't do it. And then the NCAA is like, nah, Ryan Day wasn't the one who turned him in. It's been a disaster. And I don't know that it's going to undisaster itself anytime soon. But it is outrageous, ridiculous, crazy to me that the idea that 25 days ago, Michigan is stealing its opponent's signs turned into one of their staffers was on the Central Michigan side. And also he might have given the signals for Tennessee and Clemson to South Carolina. So now you got multiple programs involved in this. And I don't know where the end is in sight. I think that it's going to be a while before the Big Ten comes down and says, yeah, we figured this all out. Here's our case. And Jim Harbaugh is suspended or whatever. I just don't think it's going to be that quick and that swift. But it is super interesting and gives me a lot of stuff to talk about. So I hope it continues for a long, long time. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing. So if you're watching on YouTube, drop a 5-star or hit the subscribe button, idiot. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out here on Saturday Glory. If you're listening on the podcast, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. We'll see you tomorrow and recap, recap the latest college football playoff rankings. We'll do it tomorrow.